Welcome to the Voice of Nursing. Hello, my name is Adrian Tracy. I'm the CEO of ICG Medical. Joined here today by Chris Pointon, founder or co-founder, should I say, of Hello, My Name Is, alongside Dr. Craig Granger. Voice of Nursing is a support network, a podcast and a blog supporting our nurses throughout the UK, America and Australia. Rather than letting me talk too much, I want to talk to our guest today, Chris, and he can introduce himself and talk about the founder and the movement that he's created and some of the improvements they've been doing in patient care. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Chris Pointon, co-founder of the hashtag Hello My Name Is campaign that my late wife, Dr. Kate Granger, and I founded in 2013 now.
Long time ago.
Yes, yeah, almost 5 years.
So Chris, talk to us about the background of how it came about. Obviously in slightly unfortunate circumstances, of course. But it'd be good to hear a bit about the story, the background of how it came about, and also the reasons and the improvements since.
Yeah, so I suppose the story all starts back in 2011 when my wife, Kate, and I were on holiday in California. At this point we'd been married 6 years. We decided to take an extended holiday to California where we've got family and friends who live there. And it was whilst on holiday that Kate, she just wasn't really feeling herself. I mean, Kate was a doctor herself, but she just had lower back pain, she was quite lethargic, but being the doctor that she was, she just put that down to jet lag, she put that down to travelling in different vehicles. But the day came when I found Kate in complete agony on the bed at the accommodation where we were staying, and I said to Kate, look darling, we need to get you into hospital, we need to take you into ER in the States to find out what's going on, which was in 2011. We did that. If we hadn't have done that at that point, then Kate would have probably died in America because her kidneys were getting blocked by various tumours across the lower abdomen, which then meant her kidneys were impacted. So we had to have some stents inserted in America, we had 2 nights hospital stay in America, and then we returned back to our NHS to pursue further treatment, and that's when our journey with cancer started, 2011. And Kate's diagnosis, after several tests and scans, turned out to be a desmoplastic small round cell tumour, which is a very rare and aggressive form of sarcoma, which normally impacts adolescent boys. But it had picked on a 29-year-old female for whatever reason, but that was just our life. That's how the cards had been dealt for our lives, and we had to play those cards as best we could at that point. Kate's prognosis then was 6 to 12 months to live. So 29 years old, I was in my early 30s, to be told that your wife's going to die within the next 12 months, it was a heartbreaking time for us both and for the wider family. But you know, Kate was a determined individual, and being a doctor, she wanted to return to work, and she did return to work. She actually became a consultant looking after older people in the NHS, something that she was truly proud of achieving. But she also wanted to raise money for charities, so she wrote 2 books.
What are the books called?
So the first book is called The Other Side, and that's all about being a doctor but seeing it through the eyes of a patient as well, so seeing it from the other side. And then the second book is called The Bright Side, which is about living with a terminal cancer and actually enjoying life and ticking off items on the bucket list. 2012 was a fairly good year for Kate and I. To say that she'd only been given up to 12 months to live, you know, we had a good year. We ticked off so many items on the bucket list. And then we get 2013, and that's when the campaign started in August 2013, and it was on the back of a hospital admission where there was a distinct lack of introductions from various people across healthcare. You know, consultants were coming to see Kate, weren't introducing themselves, healthcare assistants, nurses were coming to see Kate, not introduced themselves, and on one occasion one of the nurses actually was taking Kate's blood without asking for a date of birth, and was talking to another nurse at the same time whilst, you know, looking after Kate. So it really started to get to Kate at this point, and she was starting to reflect on the day's events when we were talking about this, but she was actually starting to moan a little bit about the lack of introductions. And I'm a firm believer, and the people that work for me in my career, is if you've got something to moan about, then you need to go away and do something about it. If you're not happy to do something about something that you're not happy with, then you need to stop whinging about this, because everyone in this world can make a difference. So that night, Kate and I were talking about the events of the day and the lack of introductions, and I said to her, look darling, you need to stop whinging about this, or we need to do something about it. Now Kate was quite prolific across healthcare. She was a keynote speaker at various events, she was an inspiration to so many people at that point, and she had around 24,000 followers on Twitter even then. So we decided to use her already big social media presence to start a campaign, and we called it #HelloMyNameIs, and that's when it was born. In August 2013, between a lady who's facing her own mortality and her non-medic husband, because my background isn't in healthcare, and that's how the campaign started. And before we knew it, we had some kind of global phenomenon on our hands. But I suppose the big thing with the campaign is although we got a lot of response initially from across the world, and it was needed as a prompt and as a reminder and a refresher of common courtesy, we know that many thousands of people across the healthcare system across the world, especially in the nursing fraternity, will have always introduced themselves and will continue to always introduce themselves. So we don't want to patronise those people that have always done that, but because of the response we did get, we knew that it was the right thing to continue with. And here we are almost 5 years later on than when the campaign started, and we've had over 2 billion Twitter impressions, it's in over 20 countries, it's revolutionising patient care with a simple introduction of 4 words.
And tell me a bit about Brian the porter.
So yeah, on that one day, and that's something I should have mentioned actually, so on that one day when there was a distinct lack of introductions, the person that did actually introduce themselves was Brian. He was the porter. So he came to take Kate down to theatre on this one day, and he did say, "Oh, hello, my name is Brian." And then he went on to talk to us about things that were happening outside of healthcare, so trying to sort of put Kate at ease somewhat rather than talk about medical things. So he was talking about cricket. He must have picked up on the fact that Kate liked cricket. So there's little things that really do make a difference, rather than Kate moaning about the lack of introductions. The one positive on that day was the porter, and this is something that I now talk about in the work that I do. It doesn't matter what position you hold within healthcare. You could be a chief exec, you could be a cleaner, you could be a porter, you could be a nurse. All those jobs are important in their own right, and nobody is just anything, and it does sometimes annoy me when I speak to people and say, "Oh, I'm just a cleaner," or "I'm just an analyst," or "I'm just whatever they may be," because we can't operate on people if the operating table isn't clean. We can't sort of treat people if they're not being looked after well by the nurses. We can't, do a variety of things. It all has to fit together well, so everyone's important. And for those people that say, "I'm just a nurse," you're not just a nurse, you're an amazing individual that looks after so many people in your careers and does an amazing job. And people who are being looked after by these individuals are truly thankful for that.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things, isn't there? That, you talk about the patient. At least Kate had a medical background.
Yes.
And even then, you think of people with non-medical background, how scared they are at that time. A little bit of commonality and a little bit of communication sets people at ease. Can really help.
Yeah, it does. And like you said there, Kate was a doctor. She was a doctor in older people. She became a consultant looking after older people, and even she got frustrated, and even she got didn't know some of the terminology that was being used at certain times within her experiences. And that was somebody who was very well educated in medicine and understood the system probably better than a lot of other people would have. If it had been me in hospital, obviously as a non-medic, some of the terminology that was used at that point, I wouldn't have understood it. And would I have the voice to ask that question to the people telling that information? When you're vulnerable, when you're laying on a hospital bed, you might not do. So we have to make sure that the care is bespoke to the individual. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that a lot of the time that is, but for those times that it's not, that experience isn't great for that.
Yeah, making it personal, I think, is a big thing. I think coming back to your point about the cleaner and the nurse and everyone running the hospital and saving those lives, I think I don't know if it's a story about when JFK was at the space station and he meets a cleaner, a janitor.
Yes.
And he says, "What's your job?" And he says, "I'm sending a man to the moon." Because they actually felt part of that team, that they were all part of the team sending a man to the moon no matter what their job was. I don't know if that's a myth or a true story, but you hear it said quite a lot.
And it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If one part fails, then the whole thing is in jeopardy, and that's the same in healthcare. If one part of the equation doesn't do the job correctly, then that could bring down the whole system of care for that individual.
100%. You speak about Kate had some core values, which you speak about in some of your talks, that we can talk about and come to later, but it'd be good to sort of get a refresher and understanding of what they were.
Yeah, so as part of Kate's work as a doctor and as part of her treatment in hospital, she came up with her own values, which now resonate really well and fit in really well with the campaign, but also across organisations across the world, they've embedded some of these values within their own organisational values. So the first one is communication. Now, communication in all walks of life has to be effective and timely and bespoke to either the individual or bespoke to the situation. And like we've mentioned before, it's got to be in the right tone, and the communication starts with an introduction. That is the first step on the ladder of effective communication between two individuals in any setting, in any walk of life. When Kate was first diagnosed, the communication that took place at that point wasn't great. It was a junior doctor that had come to tell Kate her diagnosis, wasn't making eye contact, almost wanted to leave the room. There is more that can be done on communication, because that is something that's huge, like I said, in all walks of life, be it healthcare, business, wherever we may be. So communication is the first value that we hold as part of the campaign and one of Kate's core values. The second one is around how the little things make a difference. So the little things could be something as simple as making somebody a cup of tea, or getting down to the same eye level as the patient so that you're not stood looming over that patient. In other walks of life, it could be holding a door open for somebody, or letting somebody out at a junction in the car. It doesn't have to just be in healthcare, but those little things can make somebody's day, or they can make for a better environment in healthcare as well. So the little things, like I said about Brian, he'd picked up on the fact that Kate liked cricket, so one of the little things that he did really well was talk about something going on outside of healthcare, which was at that point cricket. So the third value is about seeing me as an individual, not just a bed number, not just an illness, not just something healthcare related. Kate was obviously my wife, she was a sister, she was a daughter, she was an auntie. She was a lot more than just somebody with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. And that's how people should be seen. They are seen as a person. So if I was to go into hospital, I'm sure that my file would say Christopher Pointon, but I prefer to be called Chris. So that's the starting point of that relationship, about seeing me as a person. My name's Chris. Yes, I was born as Christopher, but actually I prefer to be called Chris. So those things, really do make a difference. And getting to understand the person behind an illness can actually help shape their treatment and make it more specific to them, which in essence could actually improve it for both the healthcare system that we're operating in and for the patient and their family and friends. So that's the third value. And then the final value that we hold is around making sure the patient is at the heart of every decision that's made, and also is involved in those decisions if applicable. Some people might not want to be involved in those decisions, but some people want to know absolutely everything that's going on. So it's got to be, once again, bespoke to the individual laying in the bed. But once again, it's applicable in other walks of life, because from my background in retail, we always say that the customer should be the heart of every decision that's made. So anything that we do as a business needs to have the end goal of improving it for the customer in mind. it's the same in healthcare. Any decision that's made, either be it in a hospital or be it in government or wherever it could be, has to be with the patient in mind at the end of the day. So if it's reducing costs, or if it's reducing waiting times, or improving the food that's served to patients, it's got to be with the patients in mind. So those four values really do resonate well across the NHS and across wider healthcare across the world, because they are so simple to achieve. And although it sounds simple, an introduction does go a long way in achieving a lot of those four values.
Yeah, I think it's a reminder, isn't it, about the personal care. You know, not treating a patient like a number, and you know, they are a person, they are a mum, they're a dad, they're an auntie, an uncle. You know, they've got a life outside of that, and you know, focusing on that. And sometimes it's very difficult with the pressures. A lot of our nurses, doctors, and healthcare, you know, people are under sometimes. But you know, it helps to remind sometimes. As I said, some people have done it all the time, just to remind some others. You know, it's a small thing. So the campaign's been going for 3 years, 4 years now.
Almost 5 years. So yeah, the 23rd of July is going to be recognised every year as an International Hello My Name Is Day. Now, the reason we've chosen the 23rd of July to celebrate the campaign is because that's the day that Kate passed away. It's also the day that we got married. So Kate passed away on our 11th wedding anniversary. So this year will be 13th wedding anniversary. But yeah, the campaign, albeit is embedded in a lot of organisations across the NHS and across the world. You know, like I said before, we operate in over 20 countries. For me, I want this campaign to be in every country in the world, and a way of doing that is to make sure that one day a year we relaunch the campaign and launch the campaign in new organisations. And also, I think it's a time for everyone to stop and reflect on their own lives and their own organisations and think, this person was going through so much, you know, the adversity that Kate was going through in her life, she still made a difference. You know, she helped start this campaign. She, you know, raised so much money for charity. You know, together we raised over £250,000 for charity in, you know, 4 years, 5 years. She was somebody that became a consultant in her own right. She was spending so much time travelling, talking about the campaign, even though she was, you know, having chemotherapy the following day. Those kind of things people can all take something from and be inspired by how she lived her life and how we lived our life together as well. But yeah, the campaign is, like I said, coming to its 5th year, or 5th anniversary, and it will continue for, well, way past I'm gone, I'm sure. So.
And tell us a little bit about the website and about the support we can give, or you know, where we can find you. And you know, you're sporting a lovely lanyard there.
Yeah. So
with the "Hello, my name is" straight on front and centre.
So so the website is hellomynameis.org.uk, and like I said, the 23rd of July is a poignant date for a variety of reasons, obviously very personal reasons for me, but also for the campaign. And this year we're actually relaunching the website in advance of the 23rd of July this year. And the plans for the 23rd of July, I'm open to any suggestions that people have, but it could be, you know, people are buying lanyards and name badges for their organisations. Anything that's listed on the website, they are only listed on the website if they donate a percentage of or a fixed amount from the sale of anything that goes through that website. So we have lanyards and obviously name badges. We sell mugs, which are personalised mugs for individuals. We do wristbands. We do a whole host of other personalised merchandise. And the website is also useful for where you can buy Kate's books from. And when I release my book, you're going to be able to buy my book from the website. We have educational resource on there. It's got a huge photo gallery. So I suppose the big thing with the campaign, and the reason why it's grown so big, is of the endorsements that we've had from across the world. So yes, in healthcare, first and foremost, that is where the campaign started. That's where it's making a huge difference, and that's where I'm truly proud of the people that work within, you know, firstly our NHS, but in the wider healthcare across the world. But we've also had some quite high profile endorsers of the campaign. So it's its selling points are it takes very little time to do, it costs very little money, and it makes a difference. So we've had the Prime Minister has endorsed the campaign, we've had Nicola Sturgeon endorse the campaign.
The former Prime Minister as well, haven't you?
Yes, yes we have, yes.
Going through the houses.
And it just shows how much of a difference it's making. But then from a non-healthcare perspective, we've had people like Kylie Minogue endorse the campaign, and Sir Richard Branson, and members of the royal family. So those kind of key endorsements help spread the message across social media, because when Kate passed away she had around 45,000 followers at that point, but these people have got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. So we don't do it for anything other than highlighting the message and making a difference, because it's applicable, like I said before, in all walks of life. It's not just a healthcare thing, and since its conception it is making a difference for patients. But the one thing that I am probably most proud of with the campaign is how the nursing fraternity have really got behind the campaign and really do show the passion and drive with the campaign. And I go and talk at a lot of events. Since September I'm on a career break, I'm on a global tour with the campaign, and I've spoken at over 200 events since September. But when it's an open invite in a medical institution, when it's an open invite for people to come and listen, the room is full, or 80% full of people from the nursing community and nurses, which is great to see, and it really shows that they are truly behind the campaign, and they show such compassion and passion for the campaign. And it's amazing to speak to them as well on a one-to-one basis about the amazing work that they do every single day to make a difference to people's lives. And personally, I sometimes don't know how they do it, because like I say, I'm not medically trained, but they make a difference, and people are truly thankful for that.
I think when you speak to most doctors, they thank all nurses. They said there's no way they could ever do their job without them.
Yes.
They're very exceptional what they do, and the rewards they get maybe are not financially as motivating, but they're vocationally actually just exceptional.
Yes.
What sort of changes have you seen in the 5-year period in regards to some of the conversations you've had? Or what have you seen sort of from a point of view of going, has it been we do that anyway, and now it's coming to the point of view going, actually we've got something here?
So initially we got a lot of feedback from individuals or organisations say, we always introduce ourselves, but then we used to go back to them and say, well, actually if you stop and think, do you? And if you watch people within your organisation and see how they interact with patients, ask yourself, is that actually a true statement or not? And then on the other side to that as well, it's even now we get a lot of responses through the website or through social media on Twitter of where it's been highlighted as something that's made a difference to a patient experience, as in they have had an introduction and that's meant a better conversation. But also we still get so many examples where it's not happening, and that's what we need to try and eliminate. And I get, we work in stressful times, we are potentially under-resourced and potentially underfunded, but it takes a couple of seconds to say that, and it could probably save time in the long run, and it does make that difference. It's huge, the difference that it can make, and we've seen it on patient experience surveys, how much better patients feel when they feel that they know the people that they're being treated by and looked after by. And a name is a simple thing to start it with. But it has improved, don't get me wrong, it's improved in the last 5 years, and it'll continue to improve as the change becomes embedded in organisations. And for those organisations where it is truly embedded, so they will all have their own personalised name badges and posters and other things around the hospital, but they've got to make sure that they are using the 4 words. So we'd rather have none of the merchandise anywhere. If people are using those 4 words and introduce themselves, then that's great, but it's good as a prompt, as a reminder. And also the logo is quite a friendly looking logo, so it's got the smile on there, which is what we asked the designer who did it for us to incorporate, because it's a friendly looking logo, it's a friendly design that puts people at ease when they're at vulnerable times in their life.
And you mentioned about you're writing a book at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm, for my own benefit and also to help other people going through something potentially similar to what I've been through, I've started to, I'm in the middle of writing a book which tells the story to an extent, but it's almost some of the pieces of advice that I had from individuals when I was going through, being a partner of somebody with terminal cancer, and the things that worked well for me, and put those down in a book that people can share and use if they so wish, and also to help raise money for the charities. And I think for me as well, it helped in the process of grief as well, by having everything out of my head into a book, which I know will potentially help other people. Sort of it gives me that sense of doing something good for others, and yeah, that should be out by the end of this year. That's my plan. But yeah, just that final sort of pulling together everything and making it into something that's...
I'm amazed you can fit it in with the amount of speaking you're doing and talks and running around the country and off to Australia.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it's fitting it in where I can, when I've got the right headspace as well, because, I've been to Australia a couple of times in the last 6 months, and you think, oh yeah, on the plane you can, do a bit of writing, but it's probably not the right space to be putting pen to paper and writing a book, which is quite personal and emotional at times. So yeah, but yeah, the campaign has spread, and Australia's a huge endorser. Australia and New Zealand are huge endorsers of the campaign, and it's spread hugely across those countries, which I'm really proud of as well. So
fantastic. So tell us a little bit about where we can find you, Twitter, websites, if people want to follow and get involved, where can we go?
So on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @PointonChris, and on the website it's hellomynameis.org.uk. And also on Twitter you can use #HelloMyNameIs to find what other people have been tweeting about the campaign, because it is used a lot across, not just in healthcare but wider events. And when I'm on Twitter, I'm always asking and encouraging people to use the campaign. And
I know you're big about the photos as well, in this printing off of the Hello My Name Is tags. Yeah.
So we have, if you go onto the website or if you look on Twitter, you can see a lot of people. There's an A4 sign that's available to download from the website with the the logo on there and the website and the Twitter handles. And if people can print those off, sign their name on it and have a picture taken and tweet it, obviously copying in myself and the campaign, then that's another way of spreading that. And if people have got any high profile endorsers that they want to encourage to endorse the campaign, then that would be great as well. And also on the website there is a leaflet that can be downloaded and then printed, which explains the background to the campaign, which can then be given out at events or in hospitals, or for people just to read themselves if they so wish. And there's, like I said, a lot of links to recent videos, recent events that have taken place. And you can also search for on YouTube. So if you put in Kate's name to YouTube, so Kate Granger, or if you put in my name to YouTube, or #HelloMyNameIs, there's a whole raft of videos that people can view and download and use at events if they so wish as well, because and we've also had, about 12 months ago we commissioned a playwright to write a play all about Kate and I's life.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you're doing. I think it's definitely improving patient care, and that personal touch is just amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much as well.
Thank you to all our nurses, all our doctors and all our healthcare workers. Thank you from the Voice of Nursing. We'll catch up with you soon.